Modern digital cameras are an interesting topic for me nowadays. I used to awooga max every single release, lusting after Sony and Fuji and Canon, but in recent years that's no longer the case. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. Having my kit together and being content with it, that kinda helps too. But it's also because nowadays digital cameras are frankly kinda
boring.
Alright, maybe calling them boring isn't fair, but more on that in just a second. But first, we cut to when OM System, formerly known as Olympus, reached out to me offering to let me take the OM-3 for a test drive. And I was like,
What the hell is even that?
the people from OM System aren't seeing this video before it's released, and I've since returned the camera to them, so these are my thoughts from using the OM-3 for a little under a month. Not sponsored, you get the idea. Now let's step back for a second and be totally fair here. Calling modern digital cameras boring isn't exactly fair. When I say boring, I don't mean like a Naruto filler arc. I mean, basically, they're all good now. When I see a camera that's boasting 4K video or has IBIS, I don't get excited anymore. I've come to expect it. Let's start really basic here. The camera itself looks great. The dials are satisfyingly clicky. It feels good in the hands. But my precious little eggies, as you know, looks aren't everything. We have to get to the bottom of this. Does the OM-3 have a great personality as well? The battery life rocks. I had this camera for a little under a month and I think I charged it like once. The colors you're getting straight out of camera are pretty great, and you have this fun dial on the front of the camera to toggle between all the presets. It's kind of like Fujifilm simulations. I personally prefer Fuji's colors over these, but what you get out of camera is pretty awesome. I was definitely content with the results I was getting, and frankly, I'm at a point in my life now where less editing, less time in Adobe Lightroom is better. Less time in Adobe anything, frankly, is better for me and my health. If you're new to this channel, I always try to bring cameras into real-world scenarios. So I took the OM-3 out for 4 shoots of mine. First off, I used it as a behind-the-scenes camera for an upcoming video on this channel that I'm sure you're gonna love, so, make sure you subscribe for that. No real complaints here, but my friends and I shot most of that video on the camcorder, so I don't know how much of the OM footage is gonna make the cut anyway, but it worked. It was a fine behind-the-scenes, set it and forget it type of camera. The video looked really good, and spoiler alert, I ruined that first roll of film in that video, so the OM-3 footage is actually the only documentation of these photos that exists. And that is a real tragedy because I was super excited about that roll. Got one of my sound panels blocking out the window. We put the grogs on my record player and we had the small rig, whatever, shooting that symbol on it. And this is just crudely balanced on my tripod. After that production, I shot some portraits with my friend Kristen. This was a casual outdoor shoot in Long Island City. I definitely hit my stride with the OM 17mm f1.2. Having that 1.2 was kinda wild, especially considering its size. I mean, it didn't exactly have a big ass chonk or front element. It was pretty cool. Okay, and this right here, this is my favorite part. You slide the focus ring down and it switches the lens into manual focusing. And the coolest part is when it's in auto, it's a fly-by-wire lens, but when you pull the cuff down to switch it to manual, not only do you see a distance scale, but it actually stops you at minimum and infinity. It's brilliant, and every modern lens should have that. We came away from that shoot with some photos we really loved. The interior bar shots were the standouts to me. And for the record, these photos are barely edited. A little bit of contrast change and that's about it. These are the colors right out of the OM-3. After that, I shot 2 music videos for my friends in the band Conversing with Oceans, who just so happened to release a new EP, which you are legally required to listen to after watching this video. Sorry, I don't make the rules. The first song was a fun, slice-of-life sort of music video. It ended up being a love letter to where we all grew up, so we shot in the park, in a pizza shop, in a car, walking around, all that fun stuff. The OM did really well on this shoot. I was able to largely set it and forget it while I went handheld with my Sony. This to me is where the OM-3 really shines. This may be a hot take, but I was more impressed with the video capabilities than the photo capabilities on the OM-3. It was super snappy in terms of grabbing and tracking autofocus, tons of options for outputs including a flat picture profile and 4K DCI, and since I was on a single player mission for both of these music videos, I was on my own. We had a crazy short time limit of 3 hours to get everything. Having a video camera that I can set and forget and get reliable footage was was pivotal to making both of these shoots work. No complaints here, the OM-3 knocked it out of the park for this shoot, and with a little elbow grease, I was able to match it to my Sony footage pretty well. I think the biggest standout for me during this shoot was how excellent the IBIS was. For those who are new to this world, IBIS stands for in-body image stabilization. Basically, the camera works to stabilize your handheld footage. For this walking tracking shot, I need to emphasize how scuffed this was. This was a handheld shot. I had a backpack on full of gear, a tripod under my arm, and my Sony camera balancing on my wrist while I was walking backwards holding the OM-3. I wish I had behind the scenes of that. But with all that crap on, the IBIS still did a pretty extraordinary job there. It's not 100% perfect, but honestly, I was so impressed for what it was and how scuffed the scenario was. The second music video shoot had an even shorter timeline of 2 hours, and I didn't end up using the OM-3 as much as I would have liked, and I gotta be completely real with you guys, that was all me. I totally messed up the settings on that one, so you can go ahead and type skill issue in the comments below because your boy fucked up. For this music video, we were going for that step printing look, and I definitely didn't set up the OM-3 properly. So ultimately, I ended up not using that footage and not wasting time during that production trying to figure out the settings. That was solely from just me not being as familiar with the camera as I am with my Sony. The bottom line for this one is, as much as I love all of my precious little eggies and making YouTube videos for you guys, at the time that music video was my priority, and unfortunately this YouTube video had to take a backseat to that because I wanted to make sure I was making a good music video. But this channel's all about creating stuff, so I gotta be honest with you, I have no regrets. I'll link the music videos in the description below and the pinned comments when they're available on YouTube, so make sure you check them out and tell Conversing with Oceans I sent you. On top of all those productions, I took the OM-3 out with me as my daily driver. I kept that thang on me, as they say. I shot my friend's band Duryea playing, and I got some shots that I was really happy with. Overall, there were some bumps along the roads, but I'm generally satisfied with the media I created with the OM-3. But now let's talk about two elephants in the room. First of all, there's a lot of people online who say Micro Four Thirds is dead or it's an ancient format, and frankly, I think that's kind of silly. I primarily shoot film, so if Micro Four Thirds is outdated, I don't know what film is. You can still get your bokeh, you can still make bangers, autofocus works well enough in most scenarios. Really, the only issue I found with it is that since you're working on a smaller sensor, low light performance isn't exactly what I'm used to in Sony and Fuji land. But let's put a pin in that for now because I have a lot to say about low light stuff later on. The second elephant in the room, this is a big fucking room, huh? It's the design of the camera. These vintage style digital cameras with the clicky tactile dials. I like them. They evoke the nostalgia of a film camera. I shoot a lot of film cameras. It's fun, but they're becoming more and more common. It's not something that makes me shit my ass, if that makes sense. The vintage build alone isn't enough to sell me. I need something unique, and the OM-3 does bring something really unique to the table, and that's its computational photography modes. It has a mode for astrophotography. Good thing it was cloudy almost the entire time I had this camera. It has a live ND filter, high megapixel modes, all that fun stuff. It's all in the menus here. There's a lot of interesting things to play around with. I really enjoyed playing around with making double exposures in camera. And I know a lot of other digital cameras have the ability to do this too, but it's a ton of fun. I wish the OM-3 had a joystick. Using the D-pad to select your focus point isn't super fun to me. It works, it's fine, but I'd prefer a joystick. There isn't any sort of grip on the front of the camera, and I'm kind of torn on that. I don't necessarily miss it. I spend a lot of time on the Pentax K1000, which doesn't have a grip either, but I don't know, a little bit of grip on a digital camera is always nice. That said, there is a thumb grip on the back of the camera, and I absolutely love that. The menu system is definitely giving Sony. It's very cluttered, there's a ton of pages, and I think it needs to be streamlined in a big way. You can make your own custom menu with all your shortcuts, which is essential if you're going to use this camera long term. But outside of the little complaints, there are two big ones for me. First off, the cost is kind of steep at $2,000 US for the body alone. This camera did release in February 2025, so it's relatively new to the market at the time of making this video. You're probably not going to find a used one for much cheaper. And then you got to buy lenses and all that other fun stuff, so it's a lot of money. The biggest issue I had with the OM-3 though is the low light performance in general. First off, because of the smaller sensor, I find that when you push the ISO, you hit the camera's ceiling pretty quickly. To be totally fair, that is becoming less and less of an issue nowadays with modern noise reduction. It's kind of bananas, but fair is fair. I'm not really doing anything crazy in terms of editing any of the photos in this video. You need to see what's coming directly out of the camera and not what I can do in Lightroom. Going back to what I said about the IBIS earlier though, you can actually crank down to a lower shutter speed than you probably normally would and get usable results. So that can kind of combat the high ISO stuff. And with the low light in mind, I find that the autofocus normally is very snappy in most scenarios, starts to hesitate and make crappy decisions in low light. Very similar to me when I decide to film a drunken darkroom video at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. And these issues really compound for me specifically because I tend to work with bands a lot. I tend to do these portrait shoots with weird lighting scenarios and crap like that. I shoot weddings. This camera made me realize I'm actually in low light scenarios like a lot. Overall, I think the OM-3 can be a really great choice for people. It's small, it's lightweight, the IBIS rocks. It definitely can be your daily driver, and I'm sure you'd have a lot of fun with it. Just keep its limitations in mind. There is no such thing as the perfect camera. Every camera you use will come with its own limitations. As long as you understand them, you'll do great. After all, it's about the person behind the camera and not the camera itself. And one other thing to keep in mind, this is in no way meant to be like the definitive review of the OM-3. I had the camera less than a month. I know there are plenty of YouTube creators who are comfortable barely taking a camera out of a box and reviewing it, but to me 1 month is just not enough time to be with a camera as a daily driver and give you every little detail, every little nuance about the camera. And considering I do the whole YouTube thing, a lot of video production and photography, and obviously photography is not an afterthought there, my use case is different than say a general hobbyist. So take my thoughts with a grain of salt. But what do you think? Do you use the OM-3? Are you buying one soon? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious of your thoughts. And if you are an OM-3 user, check out 1 Month 2 Cameras. She actually uses the OM-3 a ton, so I highly recommend you check out her channel, specifically this video about her film recipes. Very cool stuff. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe. Sweet Loot Photography. Domain.
In other words,
Oh, that's now.